Thank you so much for joining me for Technique Tuesday. My name is Sharon Rogers and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Wells, Maine. And every second Tuesday of the month, I like to bring you an online class featuring one or more techniques. Now tonight's techniques all have to deal with resist. And when I talk about resist, I mean doing something to the cardstock or paper that resists the ink grabbing hold of the paper. You'll see what I mean in just a second. Let's get started. When I first began stamping almost 30 years ago, I quickly learned and fell in love with the embossing technique. And it's pretty simple, and you've seen me emboss plenty of times. So it begins with a Versamark pad and then either, some kind of embossing powder. Now for the resist technique, when I am embossing on white, I can either choose clear embossing or I can choose white. I'm going to go ahead and choose clear because I don't often use my clear. So we'll just start with that instead. And we'll get out our things that we usually emboss with. So I'll just take my embossing buddy and I'm going to run it across here just to remove any moisture and oils from my hands, maybe any static that might be building up. Then I'm going to take my Versamark and I need a stamp. So I thought I would start with the Textured Notes stamp set, and I like this little leafy image right here. I'm going to grab that one to use. We're just going to make a quick and easy, well, at least a quick, fairly quick and easy thank you note here. I'm going to ink my stamp in that Versamark, and then I'm going to stamp all over this piece. And I'm going to vary the direction and the height of my leaves. Some will be low, some will be high. Then I'm going to come in from the other side as well. And it's really hard to see when you're doing this, so you want to have a nice light on so you can see how far in you're stamping, which I can. And if it overlaps a little, probably not a big deal. All right, so that's good. Doesn't look like much yet, does it? Just you wait. So I'm going to bring in my embossing tray to catch all my excess powder. And I'll get my clear embossing powder out. Just dump that liberally right on there. And I can hold it from the other end as well. I'm being careful not to touch the tops, just the edges. And we will flick some of those extras off there. All right, that should be good. You want to put away your embossing powder, or at least set it aside, because you don't want the heat getting into this tray. It will just melt all those plastic particles into your tray. All right, so that's put away. I don't have to worry about that. Now we need our heat tool. And I'm going to put this on high. Now a lot of people like to start with it from the back side. Doesn't really matter. My heat tool has to heat up a little bit first anyway. But I'm going to keep this on here and I'm going to watch for the shine. Once the powder melts, it becomes shiny. And so as soon as it starts to become shiny, I move it to a new area. You do not want to over emboss because that will melt it right into the paper and then it will no longer stick up. It will probably still resist, but it will not have that raised texture feel on the card. I can see over here that I missed a spot, so I want to make sure I get that. There we go. Turn this around now. And once it's been heated for a little bit, it goes much quicker. So this end is going much quicker than the last end, just because the gun's been heated up already. All right. So again, doesn't look like much, but there is stuff on there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a variety of greens. And you know that when you're, in summer, especially late summer, you'll see some darker greens, but you do see a variety of greens in the foliage that's around. I'm going to start with the lightest one. I'm going to try to use only one blending brush. So I'll get some ink, and I'm going to start off, and I'm just going to rub in a number of different places. I don't have to rub in all of them. You may be able to see some spots right here where it's where you can see the leaves kind of popping through. The leaves do not accept the ink. Even if it looks like there's ink on them right now, we'll be able to wash that right off, or wipe it right off, I should say. Let's bring in some garden green. Again, take off that first little bit and just put in some different areas. And it's okay to overlap your greens. You can just keep going. And I'm gonna just clean off some of that excess ink on my scrap paper. I'm gonna come in with Mossy Meadow and do the same thing as I did before. So we've just got a whole variety of green going on here. And you can make it as dark or as light as you want. You can see as I make it darker and rub more, I see more of those leaves popping through. And some of that is just this brush rubbing off the ink. Oops, careful of my paper. All right. Now I'm going to bring in a paper towel and just buff the excess ink off the top of those leaves. And then you get that nice white popping through. So it's a slightly different look than it is when you emboss in white on a green. For one thing, you've got multiple green colors in the background, but you do have a slight tinge of green on the top as well. So that's just really, really pretty. Now we need to mat this. And again, this is probably just one of the most simple little layouts for this. Oops, things crashing over here. And now I need to decide, do I want this on this green with this green? Actually, I didn't even bring in this bright green, so I probably shouldn't use that one. I can bring in a layer of Old Olive, and we'll cut this down if we determine that we like this. Do I like that, or would I rather have the dark on the Old Olive? Let's get out my Mossy Meadow. Here's my Mossy Meadow, so I could either have, I could put this on like this with just a dark piece over there. Could do this. I could do this. I think I'm gonna like it with the Mossy Meadow. Yeah, I think I like that best. The Mossy Meadow on Old Olive. So I just need an Old Olive card base, which I happen to have because I always cut 2 card bases at once. I'm gonna take this piece of Mossy Meadow and I'm going to cut it just a little bit wider. I'm going to cut it at 2 1/4 inches. And it's 5 1/2 long. So this is going to lay on here just like that. Let's go ahead and adhere it. Use your adhesive of choice. You know mine is the green glue. Let's look at my stylish shapes dies. I think one of those circles might work. Here I have a bit of a smaller circle. Let's see. Oh yes, my thank you will fit inside there just nicely. So that's what we're going to do. And I think we will do that right on a piece of basic white. Now, because this is not a clear stamp, I want to stamp it first and then die cut. So let me see if this piece of scrap is wide enough. It's just barely wide enough, so I'm not going to use it. There's no wiggle room for error there. And I think I'm going to go ahead and use the old olive ink to match the card base. We'll stamp that right there. And we will die cut this. BRB. Be right back. And here we are. We have this, and we'll just put this up on some dimensionals that I have right here. Now there is two thicknesses here, but I'm not gonna layer my dimensionals so that there's different heights of dimensionals to accommodate the different heights there. I'm just going to do all in one. It'll be fine. And so there we have, there's our little thank you. What a very simple card. Just put a little layer inside in the white. And in fact, what I probably would do is just take this little layer, and instead of stamping this in Versamark on the inside, let's clean that Versamark off. It's not going to hurt your pad very much. And we will just stamp that inside just like that. You can stamp one on the envelope too to have things perfectly coordinated. And there is a sweet little thank you note. Good for a gentleman or a man. If you wanted to bling it up, you could, but you can just keep it very simple as well. And that is our first project showing Emboss Resist. This time I'm going to do something different. I am going to use a resist technique, but with another layer of color underneath. And I could start with colored cardstock. I'm just so happen to be starting with white, but you could start with any color cardstock you wanted to. I'm gonna stay with my green theme, but this time I'm gonna bring in Granny Apple Green. And instead of stamping and doing the resist first, I'm going to be putting on some splotches of color in various areas over here. And you can do some lighter, some darker, just an overall wash if you want to. And I'm going to come in with a darker color. Again, get some of this excess ink off. Let's come in with Garden Green. Ooh, that one's dark, but don't worry, it's okay. Ooh, I've got it really dark on the edges there. It's okay, don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine. It's actually kind of cool. All right, I'm gonna take this and rub it a little bit more on my paper towel. That seems to get it off a little bit better. All right, there we go. I'm going to come back. I'm going to put in a little bit more of this bright green. My pad that is inked up pretty well, so I think I'm going to get some good brights. Just some of those lighter areas. I'm going to come in with some bolder color. And again, it's okay if I've got, you know, it's not just perfectly blended and looks lovely. This will work out just nicely. What I want to do is I want to set this aside to dry though. So we will wait for a few minutes. I'm actually going to go film the third project and then come back to this. All right, I'm back with this piece of cardstock that we blended some ink onto randomly earlier, and it's dry. I actually did hit it a little bit with a heat tool just to help. And then I'm going to rub on an embossing buddy to get maybe whatever little moisture picked up that might remain. Then I'm going to bring that same leaf from the first project back in. I've cleaned it, which is important. I'm going to be embossing in clear again, just like I did on the first project. And we're just going to go all over here. And again, remember, it's really hard to know where you've stamped, where you haven't stamped. So try to keep track, but if you lose your place, pick it up and see if you can see the gloss from the Versamark. And that's what I'm going to do a few times, probably. And it's all right if it's not perfectly the way you wanted it to be. Nobody knows how you really wanted it to be. All right. I think now it looks like there could be a little spot up here that I missed that I really want to fill in. And there's one right here, but I can't do that without overlapping a lot of stuff and maybe potentially making it look bad. So I'm going to leave it, and that's where I'll put my sentiment. I'm going to bring this in, or I can just cut it down as well. Again, I'm using the clear because I want this green to show through. So I'm going to hold this by the edges, and we're just going to dump that clear powder on. And you want to definitely use clear because even though it looks like it's going on white, it is not. It dries clear. I'm following this back in, but I do want to get an extra spot that I think I may have missed. So right down over here. Ooh. All right. Let's go ahead and emboss this and see what we get for a result. All right, so got my powder aside. Now we're ready to use the heat tool. Again, when it gets shiny, you move on. I like to hold it parallel to my hand. That way I'm not aiming the gun at my hand and therefore getting it burned. If you have a heat-resistant surface, you can emboss on that. I'm not sure if my pad underneath is heat-resistant. Guess there's one way to find out. Kind of need a new one anyway. Once you see it shiny, what do? You move on. Now I know it doesn't look like much yet, but just you wait. We're not done. I think everything has been embossed. I'm just going to check the edges. All right. So if I pick this up, can you see the shine of the embossing? Ooh, looks like something over here didn't get embossed. That's why it's always good to pick it up and check. There we go. I see it popping now. It actually looks like I could use another little bit of leaf right over here. I can get away with that. I'm gonna do that. And another one right here, I think. I didn't like this edge for some reason. All the other edges, or most of the other edges, look pretty good. Down here, could use a little bit. Down here, maybe. All right. Let's put a little bit more powder on and emboss, and then we'll be done. So everything was either at the bottom here or on this edge. All right, I think I got it all. I'll just set this aside this time. I won't make you go through the pain of watching me dump that back in. So I had a leaf down right here. There it goes to shine. One right here. There it goes. And then a couple down here. All right. That's good. Now, it doesn't look like much right here, but what we're doing is a technique called blackout. Now, some of you may know it by another name, and that is Joseph's coat. Either one, they both mean the same thing. What we're going to do is we're going to cover this all with a very dark ink. Now, you could use black, you could use Secret Sea, you could use any dark color will work. And you can use, I don't personally like to use a blending brush. I like to just rub over the top. It does use quite a bit of ink. And I want to make sure that my hands don't get too inky. Let me find my paper towel. Looks like everything's inked up now. And just like we did before, we are going to buff off any ink that is on some embossing that we don't really want there. Now, if there are a couple spots that didn't seem to take, like right here, you can go back and do that some more if you want to. Or you can just let it go and say it's okay, it's close enough. It still looks pretty cool. I'm not the it's okay enough kind of person. So it still looks pretty cool. But I'm going to go back and put some more ink in some places where I think it's a little too light. There we go. Again, we want to make sure we buff that off well. It'll keep it off our fingers. But look at that, how we get different colors of leaves even within the same green. It's kind of pretty. Kind of pretty. all we need to do is mount this onto a card base. What color would be great? Ooh, I think this bright green would be a lovely, lovely base, just like that. Ooh, so pretty. So pretty. And now we just need a sentiment on there. I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of white, and we'll bring in our Granny Apple Green ink pad. And this time I'm going with the other sentiment of thankfulness, which says a little note of appreciation. Stamp that on basic white. And I'm going to use the Countryside Corners I talked about before. Now this is on the last chance list. So if you like this particular kind of label, especially since it's got a, it's just got a different look than a rectangle. It's got a little bit more pizzazz to it because it's got some shapes on the end. Then you want to grab that when you can. And I'm going to put that sentiment to the end of that die. And voila! When it is done, you have this little label. We're going to pop that up on dimensionals, but we're also going to add another piece of natural looking accent, and that is the linen thread. I'm going to take, and I think I have some small pieces here, but I think they're too small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this around a couple times, and then we're going to tie it into a bow. She says as she fumbles with the linen thread in her fingers. Here we go. Just going to tie a little bow. My fingers don't seem to want to work today. Oh, come on. All right, let's start over. Now, Joseph's coat and embossed resist can be a little bit messy. I got some green fingers. So if you don't like mess, this might not be the techniques for you. But it really is kind of fun, and everybody should try it at least once. All right, let's put that over there. Let's trim our ends a little bit. Oh, I just pulled that. I think I need to sharpen my scissors. I haven't mentioned it for a while, but when you want to sharpen your scissors, they make scissor sharpeners, and they're fairly inexpensive on Amazon or at Walmart. So you can just pick them up there and sharpen your own scissors, and you're good to go. I mean, I've had these scissors for a very long time. It probably is time to buy a new pair. I have several pair, and they're all very old. Let me get my dimensionals out. And I'm going to put that right there to hold that in place so it doesn't fall off. And here we have a little note of appreciation. There we go. A little bow on it. There we go. Again, you can bling this up if you want to. I don't think it needs it. And for the inside, you can just take a small piece, take your same branch. I mean, I've really only used one stamp plus 2 sentiments on these first 2 cards. Get your granny apple green. You'll notice in a second that I already stamped this once, but I did it with a lighter color, or the darker color. Old Olive. Wasn't paying attention to which green ink I was picking up. And there we go. There's our inside for our little note that we can write of appreciation. And there is our fun little outside with multiple colors of green in each leafy stem. Blackout technique or Joseph's coat technique, whichever one you want to call it. Now, one other item that Stampin' Up! Carries from time to time is a paper where the resist is already done. So I don't know if you can see it. This is, and I'm going to keep with my leafy theme here. This is a leaf pattern in it. This one right here is florals, and I don't know how well you can see that, but hopefully you can see the reflection or the reflection of the light on it. And then there's one more pattern, leaves, flowers, and then it's just sort of a grid, double-lined grid, which would be cool as well. But I'm going to stick with the leaf theme, and I'm going to cut a piece of this paper. I'll cut this down to 4 inches wide, which is what a standard layer on a card front is. And 5 1/4 long. Oh, I guess it's tall this time. I wonder if I should have had it the other way. No matter, we've got it this way now. All right, let's bring in some paper to protect my surface again. And I'm going to do this one pretty much all in the garden green, I think. It's a nice bright, you know what, I'm going to do garden green because it's a nice midsummer green. I've got some granny apple on it, so I'll try to get that off. Now this one, I do want to make sure that I have a nice smooth, so I'm going to just come in here and I'm just going to start blending some green on here with my blending brush. And again, it's going to take a little bit. It will show up a lot more the darker the ink that's on it. But we will be brushing off or wiping off the embossed areas with a paper towel. And that really makes that kind of come through and pop. So this is Emboss Resist without the trouble of embossing. They've just taken care of that step for you. Okay, so let's just rub very softly. Try to get the same color. And it's okay if there's a few spots that are varied in the color. That's what happens in nature. But you can just keep going over it until you get it as you would desire it. And in fact, you can make it an ombre look. Ooh, let's try that. Let's try that. So it's lightest at the top here. So I'm going to just give it a little bit more color. More color in the middle. Blend as I get a little bit lighter on my ink. And then I'm going to bring in some more ink and do a lot more color down here at the bottom. So there's a top and a bottom, but not, some of the leaves go down, some of the leaves go up. So it's your choice, which is which. So I've got most of my ink, I think, off. So I'm just going to come back up here and continue blending a little bit just to make it a nice, soft ombre. And then we will go ahead and buff again. There we go. And we have a beautiful ombre layer to add to a card. It still probably could be darker down here for me, because that would really accentuate and make it look more ombre, more intentional, I should say. Well, that's a little bit better, a little bit light in here. All right, that's a little bit more ombre. I think that's good. Buff off that excess ink. See, some that really does come off. And there we go. Now we can just add this to a card and add a sentiment. One of the things that if you have not ever subscribed to Paper Pumpkin because you're like, I don't know, once I'm done with the kit, what do I do? I like to keep them in a package, and this one, for instance, has a leaf. This is actually, I think, it might be 3 different Paper Pumpkin add-on dies. They're the old ones. So it's the Thanks and Beyond, and I'm going to use the one that says Thanks. So I think that's fun, this Thanks and Beyond one. And I'm just gonna come here, and I am going to die cut a Thanks from white and put that on there. And then I'm going to see what happens. And I may or may not use this. I'm going to die cut a garden green leaf from here. And let's see what we get. All right, so I have this Thanks. I think I'm going to put that up on dimensionals. I probably should have thought about that ahead of time and just use the foam adhesive sheets so it would be already on dimensionals. But no matter, I can still get it done. And let's see. I don't know if I like this leaf underneath it. It's not bad, I guess. It does get lost though, doesn't it? But it is interesting. Maybe I just move it up a little bit where it gets found a little bit more. Yeah, that's pretty good right there, I think. Let's go ahead. We will adhere this leaf down, just apply the glue to the wider parts. I'm going to just do this. There we go. Then we're going to put this up on some dimensionals. Now, we're going to need our mini dimensionals for this. And again, I'm going to use some Paper Pumpkin mini dimensionals, leftovers. So they're still a little wide. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this edge here. And for some reason on the mini dimensionals, the edges are quite wide, but you can cut them into thin strips. So I'm going to just put a couple thin strips in a couple different places. There's the K. And we have these little pieces are little. I think next time I'm going to go with the foam adhesive sheets. That way the whole word is up. And there's just one more little spot down here. And by the bottom of the N and the A. Let's get the backs off this. Oh, I guess the back's off that one. Okay. I will put this right here. Thanks. And oops, it's not quite centered. Let's get this off again and try to center it. That's a little bit better. There we go. And now we just need to mount this onto a card base. And so here's my base of garden green. Look how pretty that looks. Oh, that's just very simple and very pretty. I like it. Cards don't have to be extravagant to let people know you care. There we go. And I don't think it needs any bling. I think it works just fine. Oh, might not be straight. Hold on. Hold that thought. Might not be straight. Let's see if we can straighten it out. I gotta get some lines to go by here. There. Now I think it's straight. And we'll just take a piece of white for the inside. And I think to tie, now I could have taken another strip of that resist and colored it, but I think we can tie it all in with a nice little leaf down here at the bottom. We'll just add a little bit of glue like we did before. And there is our card with a coordinating inside. Very simple and pretty. Thank you so much for joining me for Technique Tuesday. I hope you found these projects irresistible. Sorry, I couldn't resist that either. But seriously, if you have a love of Stampin' Up! Products and you don't have a demonstrator currently, I would love to be yours. You can find the link to my online store in the description of this video. For every $20 in merchandise that you purchase, you will receive 10% of the merchandise amount back in Stampin' Rewards that you can use toward a future order. And those can be banked for maybe a larger purchase down the line. You have up to a year to use your points. Or you can spend as you go, so you could spend them all on your next order. Does not matter, the choice is up to you. Now, if your order is $25 or more, not only will you receive the Stampin' Rewards that are associated with that order, but you will receive an entry, one for every $25 worth of merchandise ordered, into my Summertime in the Stamperhood giveaway. This runs July 1st through August 31st, and at the end of that time frame, I'm going to do a random drawing from all the entries for an award of $50 worth of Stampin' Rewards put directly into your account. Not only that, but anyone who achieves at least 5 entries will qualify for an exclusive online class to be held in September. You won't want to miss it. You'll be able to craft along with whatever you have in your stash, but it will be something that you can watch at your leisure and as you're able to, and create some great little projects. And finally, if your order is $50 or more, you will receive the Stampin' Rewards. You'll receive at least 2 entries into my Summertime in the Stamperhood drawing, and I will send you a special thank you of 2 4x6 sheets of each of the designs in the Irresistible Designs paper that I used on that third project. So that's 6 4x6 sheets in total. And there you have it. Several ways to earn extras simply by shopping in my online store. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will see you on Thursday for Lunchtime Look at noon, and I will be doing one more card showing a emboss resist technique. I hope you'll join me.